Hi everybody, welcome to the podcast. I'm here with Joey.
He caught me in the car lacking.
Lacking. What was that subject you wanted to talk about, Joey?
Oh man, why the fuck did they think it was a good idea? Why the fuck did they think it was a good idea to reboot the Saints Row story
So,
and try to make it like I guess modern, like but with less parody involved?
I'm gonna be
So it's
100%
just back
honest
to
with
being
you
a
for a brief
GTA
second,
clone.
and this is the only time you will hear me say this. All right. I usually most of the time, like 99.99% of the time, do not subscribe to this worldview. But this one time, subscribe to this one worldview. I think, I think they tried to go too woke moralist on us.
That I have it on
They
a
looked at
podcast,
the
bro.
original Saint Row games and they were like, whoa, 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 too controversial, too much hatred. We gotta go woke on this one. And then they
I'm
tried to
gonna
make it
quote
too woke, and then they ruined it.
I'm gonna clip that and send that to Izzy because
That's the
man,
only time you will ever hear
this
me say that.
motherfucker just quoted. This motherfucker just quoted Jordan fucking Peterson on our podcast. First fucking thing. This
The-
man didn't come out of the gate swinging. This man came out of the gate and tripped on the floor. So that's not even close to my issue with the game. My issue with the game itself is the story feels like they're trying to be serious, yet not, which makes no sense when they're restarting the story and they have to build back up again. They're acting like they don't have to and acting like the name itself will carry it. Well, the thing is, they need to be careful because they started as a GTA clone. Not a good one either. Like not great. The sequel was more comedic, and it started to delve into that area a little bit more. That's around between those two. I think is where the Saints Row lies, and the problem with that is if it's going to be funny, it needs to be funny. You know, like if you're not funny, you you failed. Saints
okay.
Row is a comedy.
So, this is where I'm kind of getting into the uh, what I mean when I say the thing I said earlier. Uh,
You're about to say
there,
China sperm jacking our men or something.
no, God damn it. What I mean is, Saints Row has always had I would say almost like a South Park look at like extreme views of people. Not like that. What's the best way I'm gonna say?
Stereotypical.
Very
Stereotypical.
stereotypical. They've always been very direct with their humor, and I think with a lot of a lot of the leftists the wokeness people are kind of afraid of being stereotypical. So they were very afraid of being like being as direct and like
Now,
as they
I
needed
I
to
see what
be
you're
the
trying
kind
to
of
say,
comedy.
but I wouldn't compare it with that because it's not stereotypes of race or even religion in these games. It's stereotypes of honestly of job.
Yeah.
Like the Hollywood actor is a wuss, right? The pothead is chill, you know. The 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 you have this basic just cool guy. The big Russian guy, the big guy is always like upset.
And I think this is where I
Um,
kind of like start to differentiate like a little bit. You can be woke and still have those stereotypes, but I think the developers did not get that. I think the new developers
I
did
mean,
not get
I,
that.
I guess my point here is those are two different types of stereotyping in my mind. Because South Park stereotypes on race, religion, they go on all of them,
Yeah.
and honestly, a little bit too right leaning for me sometimes. Um, but as I said, is in that sweet spot. The reason three was so well received was because the sweet spot was they would play on absurdity
Yeah.
with a few stereotypes in there. but it was a lot of absurdity. Burt Reynolds is the mayor and there's a zombie outbreak. There's your example right there. That is absurd. It comes out of nowhere and it's absurd. Everyone loves that mission though because it's well paced. Him coming in, nobody talks about it, and then he just appears. It matches the energy though, right? Of the game. The game itself starts absurdly. These dudes got you in a plane that you jump out of and you gotta like keep catching people and shooting cars and blowing shit up in midair. It's absurd.
I mean, I personally always preferred Saints Row 2 also because although it's not as absurd, the more grounded humor I always appreciated a little bit more than absurd humor. And
I can respect that, but that was my point. Is that was the one where they started to fully deviate.
But either one,
like when you broke out of prison naked, when you broke out of prison naked, that's absurd. That was absurd.
Either one, and here's the thing: if you go like full like woke, you can get some pretty absurd and some pretty like crazy humor. But I think because the new Saints Row is trying not to offend literally anyone, which is weird for to say about a Saints Row game, they end up just not.
It's a strange criticism because I would actually phrase it a different way. Specifically, I would dictate that they're trying to make Saints Row act like old school GTA. Like I not say like 4 or 5 because those are 4 is unintentionally a comedy, but 5 is for sure a comedy. But like I don't know, Vice City 3. They're trying to make it a little bit too grounded. And that's a problem because Saints Row, that's a brand. That's a brand name at this point. We can agree on that, right?
Right.
Have you had the privilege of playing Agents of Mayhem?
No.
So,
I've heard about
Agents of Mayhem was the last game made. I actually really enjoy the game, so I won't sing its praises, but I'll dictate what it is. So Agents of Mayhem was the last game they made in the Saints Row canon, quotation marks included, because you can play as Johnny Gat Pierce, Kenzie.
Right.
It's based in South Korea. It's free roam. You get heroes you can go out on missions with that you can change between that have different special abilities. It's a solid third-person shooter, open world, single or multiplayer, and it's absurd. Oleg is a fucking frost giant. That's crazy. His shooting his ice cannon down. He turns into Arnold Schwarzenegger from the Batman movie. That's absurd.
So, okay.
Go back. They went to hell. Go back further. They went to space, right? The last 3 games they made, one is a Saturday morning cartoon, hell, space. All 3 of those things are absurd. But that's the brand name now. The point is, not that they shouldn't be more absurd. The point is that they need to write it well.
So
nobody wants them to stop.
So okay, I'm gonna go on a little rant as to why I think they didn't write it well, and this is gonna change. This is gonna derail the conversation. So trust me, we're gonna go into a different game here in a sec. But I said earlier that they're kind of afraid of offending anyone. And that's a problem because true wokeism will totally offend people. Fuck you. And thus you can get a lot of like absurd and offensive comedy in woke humor if you want. If you're just like actually woke, but they were fake woke. And this reminds me of, have you ever played Far Cry 5? The one, I think it's Far Cry 5, the one that takes place in America.
Yeah.
That game,
because it was so close.
That game absolutely refuses to take any political stance, and it pisses me the fuck off.
That's so close. You know what? It set up everything just right for the perfect FPS for me, which was I'm a cop. I lose faith in my own system because I allowed people like that to propagate, even though I have a badge. That would have been an amazing storytelling device for me.
Here's the problem, and this is the same problem. They're just afraid to take an actual political stance. And, everybody's like, no politics again. But here's the thing. the villains of Far Cry 5. It's been a while, so some of the details might have reminded me. They are
One sec,
religious.
Jesse, pause the recording.
What were we talking about again?
We were talking about
Oh yeah, Far Cry
specifically
5.
well, yeah, Far Cry 5 and like they didn't want to take a side.
Yeah, because like in Far Cry, I should probably state for the podcast. We got interrupted and we had to come back like an hour later. um,
Which is okay.
it's okay, but so continuing. Yeah, it's been a while since I played Far Cry 5, so some of the finer details are. But like, I do remember stuff like them saying like, okay, the bad guys only managed to go in power because people left guns everywhere and they managed to get armed very easily. But then, like, throughout the game, the only reason why you can fight back against the bad guys is because there are gun nuts.
Because you have so
everywhere.
many guns and militias and shit.
Yeah.
Now, what is fair here, the notation is that it's a township. So a militia can handle a township takeover. That's true. That's not false. If we're talking government, that's different. You can't deal with drone strikes with guns.
And then there's also the fact that like the group is like a crazy like religious fanatics, right?
Heavily, they're heavily evangelical. Yes.
Yeah.
That was
but then some of your party members, one of your party members is heavily evangelical too. It's like, well, is being heavily evangelical bad or not? Tell me.
Well, okay, them existing in your party doesn't necessarily mean that you're endorsing their beliefs, though. That like the note that we need a quote from your main character dictating, yes, you should be able to express your religion like this man on my team.
They don't deny it though, and that's the problem.
They don't deny it though, and that is an issue, but it's not as big an issue as if they endorsed it.
But I think that's the problem though. There's no like strong stance either way. It's just so middle about it.
No, there isn't. I mean, honestly, it leans a little bit more left than right in the game.
Just a tiny bit, but it still also like bounces back frequently.
It leans liberal comparatively, but I'm not a fan of liberal. So that's the issue I fall into.
Because like another one is the township, the bad guys are mixed race and accept everyone, including immigrants and stuff. They're very accepting to everyone. Meanwhile, one of your party members is a raging racist, and it's like, you know, one of the good guys is a fucking raging racist, and it's like,
Oh, I'm sure the point is to dictate conflict too, you know, because like they're supposed to be inviting you into their flock, right?
Yeah.
So like, I mean, the whole issue comes in here is, I would very much like to shoot this guy, who's on my team. It's still one of my favorite Far Cries just because it actually addresses the fact that we have an overt amount of evangelicalism in America. And that's a showcase with the guy on your team as well, is that even the people, like, you have so few people that do right in these small townships that you have to fall back on the lowest common denominator.
I guess,
like the
but
dude
I guess
that's
in the game it's very. I think that's easy for you to say because you lean that way, so you see that stuff easier. But if you're like coming from the other side, you could very easily say the opposite of exactly what you're saying, and that's why it's so middle. Is because it's really down to how you feel it is, and that's a bit of a problem because just being so middle about it means that there's nothing to it. It's whatever you feel, whatever the current person who's playing feels like it is.
Oh, okay.
And I get art is subjective, but there's a certain point where it's like, it's still gotta mean something. There's gotta be something there.
I mean, it definitely does mean something. Like, they're dictating, you've dictated the things that they could mean. So that's something, right? That's not nothing. But, let's note here that the bigger stretch here would be for the right to say you need guns to stop guns, because it's easily countered by dictating this is only in one town. So, like, that still leans more left.
Yeah, but here's the thing. The bad guys were planning on spreading beyond the town, so it's like...
But they didn't!
Because you had guns!
If they could barely handle... Yeah, and if you could barely... Because they were only a town size. Here's the thing. The government is not a size of a town. They aren't starting the size of a town. They're already the size of the government. A town to the country is a very big size discrepancy that you are ignoring.
I don't know.
Like, if the what if maybe only counts in horseshoes and hand grenades, Jesse. They died to one fucking dude. They were never going to spread properly, and even if they attempted to, I guarantee you, other state ships probably would have shot them if they crossed the fucking border. Because they're only the size of a town. And once you become an insurrectionist invading army, that is how you need to be handled.
Yeah, but they never really sold themselves as a directorist for invading army. They said
They
themselves
literally
as a
said they were
religion.
going to spread and take over other states or towns. You said that
Religiously.
yourself. That's insurrection.
Yeah, but here's the thing: nobody outside knows that they're evil and like they like suppress people because they suppress all the information.
The U.S. Marshal Force knows what they're doing.
Yeah.
That's dictated, which means other people know what they're doing.
See, here's the thing: if that was made clearer in the game, that'd be one thing. It'd be like, yeah, then you take a stance, but they don't, which is, again,
they
the
do.
game being very neutral.
That's why you're there, Jesse. That's why you're there. Now, I'll be real. I agree 100%. They should have had a more clear-cut good versus evil in terms of mentalities on teams here. I 100% agree with that. That was very unclear, specifically with that one guy. But the point of them being any kind of threat to any type of like governmental body when they're just the size of a fucking town.
You know what? If the government came and stopped it instead of one guy with a lot of guns, I'd probably believe this a lot better. But the game has one guy with a lot of guns stopping a problem. So it's like, that's like a conservative's wet dream. All the like gun nuts are like jacking off to that idea.
Dude, it's just an action movie at that point. If it was a governmental body that was being taken down by one person.
Most action movies are assholes.
Hold up. Deus Ex Human Revolution would like a chat with you for a second, but let's get back to it. So, the point here is not that that's going to be the focal point, because if it was, then we have to talk about a lot of other games that we both like, Jesse, because otherwise we're not being consistent here.
Yeah. All right.
You feel me? America itself is not the only point that can be made utilizing that. There are other games that are like, I took down a government with guns. Wet dream, you know?
Well, most Far Cry games are like that.
Oh, you don't necessarily take down the government in all of them. You tend to just take down like a warlord or a singular motherfucker, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I think the only one that I can point out that you took down the government was 4.
Yeah.
Because that was an isolated government. So it wasn't like a huge nation or anything. But like, if we're talking the American government or, oh my God, I believe it was the South African government, you don't touch those in 2 or 5.
Yeah.
Like, you don't go near those. And even if, like the bottom line here is, you build a militia. It's not just you alone, it's your militia. It's dictated in the background of the story in 5. Your militia is what allows you to win. Because otherwise, when you've been alone in that game, you tend to get consistently taken out or captured.
Yep.
So it's not just you. Which redacts that wet dream concept in that game. It's still a guy with a lot of guns, but like, so was Deus Ex, so was Watch Dogs, so's, you know, I could point out a bunch of different games that do the same shit. I guess my argument for like that it can be right leaning is that they did not go all in on the evangelical imagery.
So I would like to say, Watch Dogs, your character is a cop turned criminal. And it's very much heavily implied that he should not be doing that stuff. Watch Dogs basically looks at what your character is doing and is like, he shouldn't be doing this.
That's Sleeping Dogs, Jesse.
Oh, no, wait. Oh, Watch Dogs. Oh, my God. I got my dogs confused.
That's okay. They're 2 different breeds, but they look the same. No. Watch Dogs is the one where you just pull, like Legion specifically. Let's note.
Oh, that's the hacking
Legion
one. I haven't played that one.
They're all pretty good. Legion is really funny. I recommend it if you like laughing.
All right.
Also, it plays really well. But I digress. I think my point stands in that like it's relatively left leaning. It just and there's a couple right leaning talking points, but like not enough to shake your stick at. It didn't go far enough. It didn't go. It didn't go. It's a far cry from being far enough.
I guess.
Like they started the boat, but they didn't make it to the other side of the lake. They kind
It
of got
feels.
eaten by.
I guess just comparing it to Far Cry 4, in Far Cry 4, it's very easy to say this crazy guy is bad, shoot him. Whereas in Far Cry 5,
Well, yeah,
I feel like they're like
they,
holding back a little bit on that, and that feels
definitely
weird.
because they're it's America they're trying to make fun of. They probably felt intimidated because that's our best ability as we
I
try
think
to
that's
intimidate
ultimately
people.
the point I was trying to make earlier was like Saints Row and stuff. They are too intimidated to say what they need to say. And
that's
I think
they're
is
too
ultimately
intimidated
what
not to be woke.
I want to say.
They have the opposite problem though. They have too much. They're too intimidated to be woke.
Exactly.
Fully. So like here's
just too intimidated to do what you want. You can tell a racist joke, and I may not like it, but I will respect that you at least said what you thought.
Well, I mean, my entire respect concept comes from the fact that I can still hate you on top of it.
Yes.
So my thing with it is, if you actually believe what you say, I can respect that you're not full of shit in your own mind.
Yes.
But I hate you if you're being like truthful about.
I think that's what I'm thinking. I think when it comes to comedy, if you can't respect the comedy, you're not gonna laugh at it.
Well, that's different though. Like comedy itself, like you can only respect it if it calls true to what the comedy is coming from. Yes. In my mind, at least. I need to preface that with
but that's usually at least respectful. If it's not, then it's like whatever.
But I was gonna say Far Cry 5 is still one of my favorite Far Cries, and it's
gameplay wise, I think it's still better. One of the best Far Cries.
I think Far Cry 4 is considered the best for good reason. Or Far Cry 3, it's a toss up usually, I should say.
I think with Far Cry 3, it's like this is the one that started the gameplay that everybody loves, and you know how nostalgic people can get.
It's kind of like when Fallout 3 happened, although with better mechanics than Fallout 3, because Fallout 3 plays like ass.
Fallout 3 is good, but yeah, it plays like ass.
It plays like ass. If I have to patch your game with 100, like I talked to Izzy about this way back in the day, where like it was back when I was, to be fair, like I was definitely biased in my personality trait when it came to like what I liked and stuff, and I was like vanilla games only. But like even respecting like that mods make everything better. If I have to mod your game to make it enjoyable, like by nature of what is available today, then we have a problem.
Yeah. I don't know.
We have a major like especially if it came out on what would have been considered the one of the HD consoles, and we recognize what came out alongside it, right? Which Call of Duty Black Ops 2 came out around that same time, which I argue is one of my favorite it's one of the only Call of Duties I played. Like it's one of the big three Black Ops games. So like World at War, Black Ops 1, Black Ops 2. Those are fucking great games. I love those games. And a big thing for me with those games is the controls are tight and they're enjoyable and they make me happy.
Like I don't feel this like is weird because I was just sorry, I don't mean to interrupt.
No, you're good. You're good.
This is me derailing the conversation, and I feel bad because I stopped.
You're
midway.
fine.
But I was just saying people love Far Cry 3 because it started the gameplay. That's why people love Modern Warfare, is because it started the gameplay. Not because Modern Warfare is actually a better game than all those other ones, but because it started the gameplay, and that's it. And I will make that statement.
Still plays really. Modern Warfare is one of those ones that has a good story too, Jesse. You have to realize, like, there are Call of Duty games that have a really good story, and that one's one of them. They dropped a nuke. That was a big deal in video games back then. Like, I mean, I remember when Spec Ops: The Line came out, still my favorite Spec Ops game. And it had a really, really fucking dark story. Like, extremely dark imagery. They make you shoot white phosphorus at civilians.
Oh,
That is one of the darkest things I've ever done in a video game. And I've played Bloodborne, where I stick my hand up a monster's butthole and squeeze. So that's a big deal. But like I used to be of the camp that like all Call of Duty games are shit. Like I like Cold War. I enjoyed Cold War. But a big thing for me is it's far and few between when you get those gems. But I digress. My point here was those games came out around the same time as Fallout 3. And Fallout 3 had no excuse to play as dog shit as it did. When I have to tap the VATS button everywhere I fucking go, that's an issue. Because I shouldn't have to tap the automatic aim button just to, first off, see everything. Because it's fine to me that the entire environment is gray. But if all the enemies all blend into the environment, because the graphical fidelity is so low, and the color paletting is so shit, that I have to update it with mods, that's another issue. That's why New Vegas is considerably better. Because even though they were forced, and I'm going to say that again, they were forced to use that engine. Because that engine was dog shit.
Still is. Their most recent game we used it.
Their most recent game definitely proves it.
Was that?
It was so colorful and vivid.
Oh yeah.
I'll be real. They stumbled a lot in Outer Worlds, but because it's their first solo project in a long time. But it's a really good first try at doing a solo project.
Outer Wilds is like the modern Fallout New Vegas I've always wanted. It's great.
Outer Wilds is the one where you're in the time loop. Outer Worlds, you mean?
God damn it! Sleepy Dogs, Watchdog. God damn it!
Although they're both really good games, I recommend.
What's worse is that
play Outer Wilds.
Outer Worlds and Outer Wilds both came out relevantly the same time too, so it's like, god damn it.
Dude, for real though, what a douchey thing to do. I need to figure out, because I bet you it was the people who made Outer Wilds, because they're indie devs, released it near the same time to try to get people to accidentally buy it.
You know what? It's a good game, so whatever.
It is. I'll let it pass. But wow, what a scummy tactic. Back to what I was saying though. You could tell in New Vegas the color palette is much more vibrant. Like, even though it's still a wasteland, you can tell what an enemy is. You can tell what a character is. You can tell fucking foliage from concrete debris.
I think
you actually would have trouble with in original 3.
I think one thing you could do is look at the super mutants in Fallout 3 versus the super mutants in New Vegas. The super mutants in New Vegas are much greener. Like, noticeably.
My goodness,
greener.
yes. Well, as I said, more vibrant. Like, give me Hulk green, please. Like, I'm looking for Hulk green.
It's the nuclear. Give them the neon
Hulk.
green.
Well, it's the difference between Avengers Hulk and Ultimate Destruction Hulk, right? I want Ultimate Destruction Hulk, because I want to know the Hulk is the one I'm looking at. Now, I respect the Avengers Hulk's look, and I like that you can change his costume, sure, whatever, fucking. But he's not green enough. Motherfucker looks like he's gray.
He's the big green machine,
That's the issue with the super mutant. That's the issue with the super mutants in Fallout 3. There is also the travesty that was what was it? No, it wasn't Point Lookout. It was Operation Anchorage. That entire DLC was so fucking annoying. Because they didn't let you use your auto aim in a game that has shit gun controls. Garbage gun controls.
Yeah.
And they expect you to be a sniper or an operator in a game where, first off, they started integrating scope sway a little too much, on top of the fact that bullets in Fallout tend to be shot like a stormtrooper's blaster.
That's the RPG mechanics.
And on top of that,
here's the thing: if you don't have the build for like hip aim and you rely on VATS aim for your build, then fuck you.
Well, and a big thing is like fast aim was the new thing at the time. Like everybody was doing fast aim,
Call of
and
Duty Modern Warfare.
because hip aim is a Doom, hip aim is a Doom thing. But the game doesn't play like a Doom game. You know, where you would find enjoyment in hip fire. I'll give shit all day to Duke Nukem Forever. Its comedy's dated. Oh, it's
Joey?
it's one of those things. I was gathering a thought. Sorry. It's one of those things where even though it was an unrealized, rushed mess of a game, I still respect the fact that if I were to play that and Duke Nukem 3D back to back, I'd probably get a similar experience. It's literally, in my mind at least, it's not a next-gen Duke Nukem. It's just a direct sequel to Duke Nukem 3D. Because it plays exactly the fucking same. Controls are exactly the fucking same. The mechanics are exactly the fucking same. The only thing they did was slap a really ugly coat of paint on it.
Yeah.
But it feels good to hip fire because of that style. It never felt like, I have no idea why they fucking added the aim mechanic in a Duke Nukem game. But like, you know the games that like, you're gonna feel good when you just pull the trigger instead of aiming down the sight and then pulling the trigger, right?
I mean, that's why when Doom got remade, it felt so good. Not because the gameplay is that much more amazing, it's just that we haven't had that gameplay for so long that it was like, fucking drops in the desert.
We haven't had it as intense as that.
Was that?
We haven't had it as intense as that. We haven't had it as intense as that for a while.
That's true,
I mean,
yeah.
a big piece that I'm thinking of is Bulletstorm was a big one that was very Doom friendly. Like, that was very much...
Not too many people played
sir.
Bulletstorm either, though, so it's like...
Which is... Well, you want to know what would have fixed that shit?
Yeah.
If they made it couch co-op.
I know Serious Sam came out with a game somewhere along that was pretty good, and then that's about it. That's all I can think of off the top of my head.
Well, I swear there was more. I'm having trouble thinking of it. Fear is one where you don't aim down the sights.
Fear is a different type of game, though. Very different type of game.
I know, but I'm just pointing out like games that feel good to not aim down the sight, and that one would have to be included. But if we're thinking about a game style that Fallout did wrong, it's Redfall does not give me hope, and Microsoft's entire perspective during this lawsuit that's been happening is very scummy, because note here that they're trying to make it okay to basically almost have a full monopoly on the biggest US-based companies for video games, while themselves being based in the US, thereby having a monopoly on the US video game market.
Yeah.
For US-based exports. The only thing they would not own after this that is major and based in the US would be EA.
Ugh.
That's the thing to keep in mind here, is them saying that Sony is being scummy is obvious. Duh. That's not news. Sony obviously owns more than they need, but they don't own all the Japanese video game companies. They don't. They don't own Square Enix. They don't own own Bandai Namco.
They don't own anything Nintendo
there's a lot of shit that they don't own. They don't. Like they're right there. But Microsoft gaining a stranglehold on the US market, the cap that they could put out there could be so high, it could rival Nintendo. It could rival Nintendo's outreach in Japan during the 80s. Yeah. And that's dangerous. And that's why I'm of the mind that the Blizzard Activision merger should not happen. Because they'd be too powerful where they live. Because they also, when you make your game compatible with PC, Linux or Macintosh, right? You pay a surcharge fee to make it feasible to play on these platforms. You have to. So.
Joey, gathering your thoughts.
Yeah. I was gonna say where did I leave off on again? Sorry.
Uh, Microsoft. Sorry, you were breaking up there a little bit, so I don't think I quite heard what you said.
I was saying basically did I already talk about the stranglehold?
Yeah.
Yeah. So like my issue comes in that I see this as a dangerous attempt because when you make your game playable on PC, you have to pay like fees to them, like royalty fees to play on their machinery.
Yeah.
Like if you're on a service like Steam or GOG, right, or Epic Games.
Yeah.
So they're making money from all three of these development things, as well as making money by selling the PCs themselves, by selling the parts themselves, on top of all of the things they make around their games.
Yeah.
And now they own ZeniMax,
Yeah.
which includes major studios like the new Outreach and Tango Studios, Ravensoft Studios, Machine Games, id Software,
Yeah. All those
big studios.
sort of indie, not really developers.
Well, id Software ain't indie.
Not anymore.
But like Raven, Tango, yeah, and Machine Games, yep. But like it's never been indie. But like those are big gets because they established themselves in the HD era, and id
Yeah.
Software established itself in the 80s, so they got a huge get. Uh, they also have passive payments because they also now own Elder Scrolls Online, which is still running strong as shit.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of a Sony-based MMO that's still running strong, and I can't think of one. But like, you get a strong MMO on your team, you could just sit around and release new expansions,
Yeah.
and you'll make money. Cause them gaining Blizzard Activision would be it would be much too big for me. That'd be much too big an acquisition. After Bethesda at least.
Didn't it get passed through the UK recently?
Last I read, they were trying to get it relooked at because it was denied before.
Last I read, it was agreed. Hold on, now I gotta look. Let me double check. Microsoft, Activision, Blizzard. Microsoft now free to close the Activision Blizzard acquisition with caveats.
With caveats.
Yep.
Okay, so they did it.
Yep, they got it.
God fucking damn it. You know what was upsetting to me?
Yeah.
Through that whole trial they did? They dictated that they could never catch up to Sony either.
Yeah.
That was and that's I'll be real, that's bullshit. Because Sony's been giving out their games to PC, which makes them playable on Microsoft, which means that they're making money for Microsoft with them.
Yep.
So I don't see the argument. The only reason Sony would be able to operate above Microsoft is because they make other shit and they do other shit.
Yep.
But this is bad.
And then
This
there's
is not a
Nintendo
good
over
thing.
there in their own little bubble, doing their own thing.
Well, it's consolidating the U.S. video game market into one U.S. video game company,
Yeah.
and that's dangerous. Especially when we have no unions. And Todd, that motherfucker, said he didn't even know what a fucking union was, trying to dodge the question of, are you going to add a union? Fuck that little thumb-looking motherfucker.
Yeah.
Such a disingenuous little fucking shit stain. Kills me too, because you know what? All companies that make video games have made games I enjoy before. They've done announcements that have made me happy before. I remember when Killer Instinct was first announced for Xbox One. That made me so happy because I thought that was a dead series. I remember when Gungrave was announced to be being made a new game of. That made me really happy because I thought it was a dead series.
Yeah.
And then obviously the sequel to Breath of the Wild, made me pretty happy. Or what's a better example? The remake of Pokemon Mystery Dungeon.
Yeah.
That made me really happy because that was something I've been looking for. That to re-feel that enjoyability in a game. And Nintendo made it happen. People tend to forget, by the way, I'll put this out there for people who don't know, Nintendo does own the Pokemon company. They have an 80% stake, so they effectively own that company.
Yeah.
So just keep that in the back of your head. They also own Game Freak.
Yeah.
So when you say they went off and did something on their own, no, they did not. But no, that's a worrying thing in the gaming community these days. This seems like a great consolidation of power happening, and like
I just
it's
looked it up.
making
It's
the rich richer.
32% stake. Oh, that's old information. Oh, that's 2021. Yeah, no, it's 33%. They only have 33% Pokemon.
Sold never mind, but they would still own a majority of it. I'd say at that point, almost.
33% to Game Freak and 33% to Creatures. So it's a
Creatures must have bought some.
It's a three-way split.
Gotcha. Well, my point still stands. They're not doing anything alone if Nintendo owns even near a majority of their stake.
I mean, it's all in their best interest to work together anyway, so,
I mean, if maybe a big issue that's come about with Nintendo not being able to be in charge of development for Pokemon games is they've lacked the ability to grow up ever.
Yeah.
Like, you don't get any more intrinsic or intense.
I need to lean forward. Now everything I'm saying is picking up. Sorry, keep going.
You're fine. I was just gonna say, you don't have any of these things that you don't have any of these things that make an RPG grow. Like you just have, you know what I mean? You just add a gimmick and you call it new.
Oh yeah.
And it's really fun. I'm not fronting here. I'm not like it's fun as fuck. But like, it's still just Pokemon, And Pokemon is allowed to still be Pokemon when it grows. Like you play some of the if you've ever tried some of the extended material online. This is how I'll phrase that. You'll notice real quick that it's
Joey, you're breaking up. I'm having trouble hearing you here.
You having trouble hearing me?
Yeah. So could you repeat yourself, starting from online?
Well, hello.
Yep. Okay, I can hear you now.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So those games online, when you play them, you'll find real quickly that they really lend themselves to a difficulty settings. First off, let's note that, but also the idea of progression difficulty. Like if I were to fight Brock first, he'd obviously have the weakest team. But if I fought Misty first, she'd have the weakest team. That actually is.
Oh sure, people have been making.
That makes sense.
Have you played Cassette Beast yet?
What?
Cassette Beast yet?
I don't think so.
It's an indie game. It's a monster collector. Holy shit, is this the first, like, good monster collector that isn't Pokemon that I've played in a long time. Like, I've played some decent ones, but Cassette Beast is the one that I'm like, holy shit, this is amazing. Cream my pants.
See, I was alright with Nexamon.
Nexomon was good. Cassette Beast is still. Don't get me wrong. Nexomon, Koromon, I've been playing a lot of those. Cassette Beast is really good because it really does. I won't say it completely breaks free of Pokemon, but it really does its own thing. It does it well. It doesn't get held back by Pokemon at all. Whereas with Koromon and Nexomon and them, I feel like they're being held back by Pokemon a little bit.
You know what I found? The reason I liked the Cyber Sleuth game so much was because it took Pokemon and kind of made it more free. You know, you could evolve and devolve and all that shit. And you can just, I'm a big fan of that concept. And I think that's why I kind of think Mega Evolutions, while they were rough on me for a little bit, them building it into a
Joe, you
story
broke up
piece
there for a little
was
bit.
a good idea because it helped me build. It helped me. Yeah, no, I think I found a dead spot. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Hello.
I can hear you.
Okay.
Now I can't hear you.
Oh, all right. There we go. Hello.
He's in his car,
I was saying, it's kind of like it gives you that freedom to evolve and devolve, and Mega Evolution was that big thing that kind of was polarizing for me because I'm like, they are ripping off Digimon because they know they can get away with it. They don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
They make more money than Digimon ever will in their life.
Oh yeah.
But it's definitely one of those things that grew on me once they figured out, okay, we need to figure out how to make it stand apart. You know, Digivolution is one of these things where it's about trust and natural aging. Mega Evolution needs to be extremely temporary and it can never be permanent. Because if we make it permanent, then we're going to have a lawsuit, which they would have. I can almost guarantee you there would have been a lawsuit if they were like, no, Digivolution's the same thing.
Yeah. I mean,
but
even though Digimon did it first.
I mean, Digimon did a lot of things first, but that's neither here nor there.
Yeah.
I mean, Pokemon. You get into arguments a lot with people who are like been playing Pokemon for years, and I'm like, I was there at Red. I get it. I understand the concept, the connection to your childhood. Shin Megami Tensei was there first. Fuck you.
I'm pretty sure Dragon Quest has
like that motherfucker was
stuff in there even before Shin Megami Tensei, so you know. They all.
Tamers was the first one to do it. OG Dragon Quest did not do it.
Huh.
But Tamers did it.
I thought it was like 2 or 3 that did it. I don't
remember. They had a Tamers game that was specific to doing that.
Yeah.
Shin Megami Tensei was one of the first games. It was the first game that specifically did that.
Yeah.
Back in '86, I believe, '86 or '87.
Old game.
So a while ago. Yeah, that's like 10 years before Pokemon even like was spit out of Daddy's junk trunk. So like, I mean, I get that you want to connect with your argument, but there's no argument there for like I'm talking to the Pokemon freak heads, the ones that like don't want to think about it and don't want to think about anything that is not Pokemon being at the forefront. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Honestly, Pokemon not being at the forefront would be good because then Pokemon would have to actually evolve a little bit.
Yeah, I mean that's what happened with wrestling in the '90s. It got better once they started challenging each other. That's what happened with Nintendo.
That's why I'm so excited for Cassette Beast being so good. There's a long list of reasons I could talk about Cassette Beast, but that'd be off subject. Which is weird for me to say in this series. Fine. But I actually think we need to wrap up here because this episode's going a little long.
Gotcha. Yeah, and you guys stitch them together too.
Yeah. So I hope y'all had fun. And maybe we'll have that cassette.
Yeah, you got a little heated there.
Oh yeah. It's good that you got a little heated.
Oh man. All right.
Well, see ya.
Have a good night, everybody.